Thanks so much for joining us today for another episode of A Soul's Quest. We have a very special guest today. I'm Jessie, your host. This is Omar.
Hey, everybody.
And our very special guest is
Terri Stone.
Hello,
Yay!
everyone.
Clapping. Thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today and expose yourself and be vulnerable with us.
Yes, I'm happy to be here. So exciting.
We're happy that you're here. So, yeah. So, how are you? Everybody's good? Are you feeling good?
Yeah, feeling good.
Yeah.
Omar always says that I just dive into these things
Let's
and I'm
do
like,
it.
I don't mess around. Oh, she's ready.
Yeah. She goes like straight to business. I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, how
so
you
now
doing?
I'm trying
How
to
are
keep
the
it relaxed.
kids?
How's everything? Yes, how is
You
everything?
know, going back to work next week after a summer off. Well,
4 little weeks, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
More than a lot of people have.
yeah.
That's really
But,
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't realize, does everybody in the school district take that time off or is it just certain people?
So there's certain calendars.
Okay.
Certain teachers have a calendar. Administrators have a calendar.
Right.
So there's different times that people are off. So
Nice.
Yeah.
And you get a
a
little
month. I get a month.
couple weeks. That's
I'll take it.
nice.
I'll take it.
Oh, I would love that. Are you
Yeah,
kidding me?
I
That'd
know.
be awesome.
And what do you do with that time?
We do a little traveling.
Okay.
Not too far. We like to stay close.
Yeah.
We always make a point to get down to the Keys. The Keys
Oh,
are
yes.
our happy place. And I do, my home is important to me, and that's how I relax. And I am constantly looking for things to do, little projects and improvements. And so I do a lot of that. I keep my girls busy with
Good.
camps, and then I give them some downtime too.
Good.
But we're not great with downtime. We don't really know what to do with ourselves. We kind of have trouble sitting.
Yeah.
So we're not big readers or we're
Oh,
not
okay.
big, relaxers or movie watchers. So we get out a lot.
You like action.
That's
Yes.
good though.
Action.
Yeah.
That's really good. Yeah.
Omar
Yeah.
says I have problems sitting.
Yes,
Still.
for sure.
She does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do. I try to, and my downtime is like really in the evenings. I like to just, all right, I'm done. I can chill now. I'm not going to do anything
Yes.
else. And I
Yeah.
do that. I'm good at that. I
Yeah.
think I'm really good at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, the preliminary romancing is not bad. You're getting to know each other and talking instead of just like, let's get to business.
Yeah, I can't help it. I just I feel like we're on a schedule. I don't want to waste
No, there's
anybody's
no time. I mean, we have time.
All right.
So, go ahead.
Well, as Omar says, we'll start with, obviously we want to get to know you. We want our audience to get to know you. And so Omar likes to say, how start with how you were pitched into this world. He says pitched into this world.
Well, we don't have a choice, right? We just get.
Literally thrown into the mix here.
Well, keep going. That's fine.
So yeah. All right. So where were you born? Like where are you from?
Okay, so I was born in New York. I was born in Long Island.
All right.
I don't remember much about Long Island because we moved here when I was 4.
Okay.
I am the second of 4 children. My parents were 22 when they had me. I have an older sister who is only 11 months older than I am.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
They had their hands
They
full.
had, they
Yeah.
had 2
Oh, my
little
goodness.
girls, and then 3 years later, they had another girl. And then when I was 9, almost 9, my brother was born. So I've had a wonderful childhood. We moved here to Florida. We moved to Jupiter when I was 4.
Okay.
Jupiter's where we came. We visited. We moved in with my grandparents for a little while, and then my parents found a home in Hope Sound, and that's where I grew up. Elementary, middle, high.
Oh wow.
So,
Wow.
yes.
In that quiet little, because there was like
community.
nothing to Hope
No,
Sound back
not
then.
really.
Sort of just like how Port St. Lucie was. Port St. Lucie was
Really?
just like when I first moved here, which is like 20 something years ago, it was empty.
Yeah.
And I know people who were like born and Port St. Lucie was like non-existent, which is crazy. So yeah, that's interesting. So Hope
So
Sound.
how was your child? How were you as a child in this particular time? I mean, it's you're a person that likes to be active, and it was a little
I
different then.
was shy.
Oh, okay.
I think I was shy. If you ask my parents, I don't think they would say the same. But I remember being very shy. And very, not confident around adults. I had a little best friend in elementary school. Jenny Alexander was my best friend. And
Are you still friends?
yeah.
Oh,
All
that's
right,
nice.
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I was definitely shy and unsure of myself. I did well in school. I was good. I was obedient.
Mm-hmm.
I was a safety patrol. And, my grades, I struggled with math. I got my first F in math.
Oh.
I mean, that was like, disappointing myself more than anybody. But yeah, just a really run of the mill. I had two parents my whole life. My parents are still married. My dad was a locksmith, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom until my brother was, I was probably in high school and my mom went back to work. And she went back to work in the school district. And she started as a cafeteria worker and worked her way out to later became a paraprofessional, which is like a teacher's aide for me.
Oh, okay.
Which is another, we'll get to that. But so yeah, my parents were hardworking. My dad also volunteered at the Hopestown Fire Department.
Oh,
and
wow.
so we just had, they had friends. My parents had great friends. We had, we just had a really good, we weren't, we didn't have a lot of money, and we lived within our means, but for the most part, we had family around us all the time. I had both sets of grandparents. I have wonderful, close relationships with my aunts and uncles. So we've always had a very close-knit family. So yeah, nothing bad ever happened to me.
Okay.
That's
really
good.
that during that time.
Right.
So that environment of community,
Yes.
of family, of support,
Yes.
that is something that was very instrumental in your upbringing.
Yes, and still is.
And still is.
Because I still live here in my community. Even the high school I attended, I worked at. My first job out of college, I returned home and I came back to my high school. And my teachers were still there. And I still see them. I still see a lot of people, that I grew up with because we all kind of moseyed back here. It's just a great place to live.
Yeah.
So even my when I was 14, I had a boyfriend from when I was 14 till I was 21 that lived in my neighborhood that I pretty much grew up with. I mean, I was very close with his family. Still at 47, I'm still, I still interact with them on Facebook and we're it's like I said, I had a really good life growing up.
Yeah.
I have no,
Did you ever feel that need to, a lot of people that come from a small town or are set in a particular area, they always feel as if, oh my God, I want to get out of here so bad. And I just want to go to another place and experience something new. Was that something that was within you, or?
So when I went, so after I graduated high school, I went to community college for 2 years. And then moved 2 hours away to Orlando. I went to University of Central Florida.
Go Knights! Go Knights!
And then after that, I ended up moving to Jacksonville for a year. And I was a waitress. I had that skill through college, and that really kept me afloat a lot in my early 20s. I also worked at a learning center. I had a really great friendship with two girls that I knew from home, and we kind of did this whole traveling thing together.
Oh, okay. So they went to Orlando with you and then to Jacksonville. Oh, that's neat.
Because I was the first person in my family to go on to college. My older sister ended up finding someone, settled down very quickly, had 3 children, and my path was a little different. So I finished high school and thought, well, I don't really know what I want to do. I kind of still don't, but I said, well, let me just get my AA. So I traveled on to, and just kind of just went the way I was supposed to. My whole life has been like, okay, well, what should I do next? Well, I'm supposed to do this. So I kind of fell into that groove of, community college and university. And then I followed my friends. We decided, let's move to Jacksonville. So while I was away, I definitely would miss my family. I would call home on a Sunday and everybody be home and having Sunday dinner, and I was like, I just want to be back.
You just want to be
where
back.
I want to be.
Yeah.
Now, no, I still just love my hometown. I
Good.
love the fact that I know I just know families. I know who my kids' coaches are. I know my students now are having kids, and so I don't long for that. I long to travel. I want to travel. I want to see places, but this is home to me.
This is home to
sure.
you.
Yeah.
Good.
No matter where you go, you'll always be back
Yes.
here. Yeah,
I
I
do.
gotcha.
I
The
do
treasure
think
coast.
Yeah.
So in that in those formative years, you mentioned that you really had a good family. You were a good student, except in math, which is ironic, right? Because all you deal with now is data, right?
But it's fun. That part's fun.
Yeah. How was how were the other aspects of life, like when in terms of your religious upbringing? Was that a very important part of you growing up as well?
So my father's parents were very religious. I was brought up Catholic.
Okay.
My grandparents very much expected my parents to make sure that we all attended Sunday school. We did all the sacraments, and my parents were committed to that. And to have 4 children and to be able to, on a Sunday morning when, we just, especially 3 teenagers at one time, they had 3 teenage girls. I mean, it was a commitment that they followed through with. So we attended Catholic church. I can't say I got a lot out of it back then. And I'm sorry to say that didn't inspire me to continue going.
Okay.
So I understood what religion was. I understood the stories, and I didn't feel the meanings like I should. Now that I'm an adult and I can understand, it was more of, okay, this is where we go, we stand up, we sit down, the bell rings, that you take your, so it was more just, okay, this is what we do on Sunday.
Yeah.
So when I got to become more independent and I left home, and it wasn't something that I kept doing.
Okay.
And even later in my 20s and my early 30s, when I was a newlywed and, looking to start a family, it wasn't something I kept up with. It was more of the guilt that I wasn't going, or I wasn't fulfilling that obligation that my parents knew that they needed to do. I didn't feel like I owed anybody anything, so I just kind of I would go, and I would be like, yeah, that was good. I should go again, but I didn't. And like at the point in my life I am now, and the things I've been through now, I am seeking it out more and wanting to know more and looking for more answers, which is the reason that you go.
Yeah.
Not because you're obligated, or you made a promise, or you feel you should.
That you should,
yeah.
So what is it in you? Because that's interesting that you say that. So you, as a child, sort of just did it because that was just what you did.
Expected.
And then as an adult now, you just said that you are trying to go back and get more involved. What was that turn? Do you think, because you just said you didn't feel like you had an obligation.
Right.
How do you feel now?
So 9 months ago, I lost my husband. He was 50 years old. He had a bone marrow cancer, which led to a lot of problems for him, and including an organ failure, and he went septic, and he died expectedly, but unexpectedly. So I'm definitely going through those stages of grief. And when we talk about those stages, one of those stages is that anger. Yeah. And I have a lot of anger towards God. Okay. I have a lot of anger and unanswered questions and constant, a feeling of, you let me down. We had all these people praying for him. We had, a whole seminary of priests praying for him. And I feel let down because, again, looking back in my childhood, nothing bad happened to me. So when you're brought up and you have this wonderful life and nothing bad happens, you think, wow, God is good. And if I just pray for something, it'll happen. But if it doesn't happen, that's okay, because it wasn't meant to be. But when something happens like this, where you have a wonderful partner and a loving father, and you have this happy life, and something bad happens and it doesn't make sense, then you question. Yeah. And you become angry and you become upset. And in my heart, I don't want that anger. I don't want to hold on to that anger. I want to know more. I want to know why. And I want to, frankly, I want to know where he is. Yeah. What is heaven like? What does, I get signs from my husband a lot. So is he here all the time? Is he only hear when I ask for him? Can he hear my thoughts? Can he hear my words? And so I feel like if I let go of the anger and become a little closer to God, maybe I'll understand why he took him from me, you know?
Yeah.
So, but you know, it's funny. I am the type of person where I've always been the pleaser. I'm the second born in my family. And, my older sister had a very tumultuous adolescence. She's very introverted, and looking back, I know that my parents were like, why is she in a room all day? Like, this is not good. Like, and so she often rebelled a lot. And for the second born, 11 months behind her, I'll do, whatever cannot upset my parents. You know? So I still have that little pleaser in me. So I still keep my little, somebody, when Troy died, gave me a little daily prayer or daily story, and I keep it by my coffee pot. And every morning I make my coffee and I'll read the story. I'm like, okay. And I'll put it, but it's still holding, I'm still holding on to that little bit. I'm not ready yet.
Yeah.
Just not ready yet.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense. Well, I was just interested because you had mentioned that. And so, cause we always touch on that in our interviews anyways, cause we're interested in that aspect of people's, of an individual's quest. Right. So,
and one of the things is like and we're going to touch more into Troy, and we're going to dive deeper into those feelings and that. But one of the things that's important to all of us is understanding that, through stories, religion, it's a way to, for us to guide ourselves. And it was helpful up to a point. And now you're questioning, okay, well, there was more to it than when we got as children. And now you're in that point in which those questions need an answer. And that's great. One of the things that I want to touch on is, you mentioned that your sister was a lot more rebellious than you were. And being a teenager, those are the times in which you are asserting your independence. And you alluded to the fact that you were always a people pleaser, and you wanted to make sure your parents were okay. How has that translated into your adult life? And did you go through a rebellious streak like she did?
I feel like I'm going through it a little bit now.
Okay.
Because that anger that is bubbled up now. And I'm 47. And I've always been told by my older friends that, just wait till you hit this age. And you're not gonna take any crap from anybody. So I definitely feel that coming on.
Okay.
Being a little more assertive or being a little more direct. My job currently right now is I'm a public school educator. I taught special ed for 15 years, and then I started working in a position where it allowed me to work at 3 high schools. And what we did is my job was to help the guidance departments really get a system for finding kids that were really struggling, whether it was academic or behavior or attendance. And then I did that for a couple of years, and currently I'm at 5 middle schools. And this is just the pleaser in me. It's something I'm working on, because I do finally see it as a hindrance sometimes. Because, our schools need direction, they need policy, and often those things don't fit with the reality of what the schools are going through. So where we have a system in place, it's really, really hard to accomplish, because it requires a lot more time and effort and resources from our schools. It's a plan, and that's the way we're supposed to do it. So I really feel like I'm all the time back and forth with, well, they can't really do that because they're struggling. So the pleaser in me is.
But isn't that a good thing? Because I've seen your work, and we've worked together before. And one of the things that is important in a system is the individuals. And I've seen you stand up. And you look at that aspect of yourself as, okay, I need to work on that. But I've seen you at work, and to me, being an outsider coming in and seeing someone like you in that system that needs evolution, being one of those people making that change, do you ever look at yourself as someone that is making that change, that looks at the system as being too rigid and saying, oh, wait a minute, they need help, they're overwhelmed because of this and that. Right. Like, isn't that something that it's a good asset to have?
Yeah, I do think that I have been able to help in some aspects and really make others understand what's really happening and what's happening, boots on the ground. So I go back and forth because there are times when I need to just say, no, this is how we're going to do it. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely the challenging part of my job. Yeah. But that's what makes it fun.
Good. So, what is the pivotal moment in your life in which you kind of like said to yourself, okay, I'm a young person. I appreciate the beauty that my family, my culture in that particular area has done. I want to go ahead out and venture out and explore. How was that transition? I mean, you went to UCF, you went to Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. How was that exploration time for you? And what was the catalyst for you to go there?
To go and move away from home.
Yeah.
It's funny because like I said, I've never been one with a direct goal and ambition. And this is what I want to do and I'm going to go do it. I see that in my younger daughter. Uh-huh. Never had it.
Yeah. It sounds like you just did a lot of what you, societal expectations, so to speak.
And again, it was, I had two best friends and they were like, where should we go? And I said, well, which major doesn't have math? And we started, and truly, as embarrassing as that is, like, that's why, like, I picked and this has nothing to do with my current job today, but my bachelor's degree is in speech and language pathology. Mm-hmm. I got my bachelor's, I finished my practicum, and I'm like, I do not like this. I do not want to do this. My practicum was I was being observed once a week with a partner, and we had a 5-year-old little girl with cerebral palsy, and she couldn't really communicate. And when I look back at that experience, I am mortified that I did not help this child because I really didn't know what I was doing. And it turned me off to say, maybe this is not what you're supposed to do. Maybe you can't do this. Maybe you're not smart enough to do this. Mm-hmm. And I came home with my tail between my legs with this degree that I really couldn't use, because if you really want to go further and you really want to be a professional in that field, you have to get your master's degree. Mm-hmm. And it was not my passion. It was not something I was excited to do. I didn't think I could do it. I had this terrible experience in my final semester, and I came home, and my brother was in middle school at the time, and had taken a few, he had been assessed for learning disabilities. And my mom had said to me, why don't you look into becoming a special ed teacher? Mm-hmm. And I thought, I can't do that, because when you think about special ed, you think about the severely profound disabled. And this was 1999. And so you didn't realize, no, it's a wide range of problems for kids. Yeah. So I ended up getting an interview at my old high school, and got a job where I was a support teacher coming into a classroom, which was a great first job, because I couldn't have been a teacher, that's for sure. But I was able to come into somebody's classroom and figure out, I got placed in the biology courses for 9th grade. Okay, Terri, you have 4 classes. Each of these teachers have 5 classes, and there's sprinkled in a lot of kids that need a lot of help. Yeah. And so I was able to kind of dumb down the material for these guys, because that's how my brain works. Okay, we have this information. I'm processing it, and I'm spitting it out in a way where they could understand. Yeah. And I did well. And I thought, I love this. This is fun. Like, I can teach these small groups of kids that just need a little extra help. And after about 3 years of that, I said, I want to do this myself. I want my own classroom. And that's kind of where I started my teaching. Still keeping in those students that needed a little, we called it life skills curriculum. Yeah. And I flourished. I loved it. I was teacher of the year. Nice. I spent all of my days, my hours, like, creating, and it was like one of the best years of my life is my teaching career, which, like I said, that classroom experience lasted a certain period, but I I mean, I have kids in their 30s now that they'll Miss Stone. So it's been a wild ride. Yes.
What do you feel as a teacher, as an educator, and that a lot of the results that are really impactful on the person's life, you don't really get to see often.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
So for not being a teacher anymore, or like, ask me that again.
No. So like when you, a lot of what we do has we do measurements in terms, okay, they pass from grade to grade, or they go from here to there, so they graduate high school and things. So that's a way to measure it. But the real success and the real impact that you have on a person's life, you don't get to see too much later.
No, I don't.
How does that feel?
I miss it.
Okay.
I miss it, and I only have 7 more years, and I hit my 30 years. And, there's this part of me that says, just go back. But then I see how much it's changed, and the teachers have it really hard.
Yeah.
And working at 5 middle schools, like, kudos to these guys that are teaching middle school, especially, because those behaviors are rough. And I now that I'm a mom of 2 middle schoolers, it's a lot. So I don't know. I go back and forth.
Yeah.
Being a mom has definitely put my perspective in a better place, and also my priorities are different too.
Yeah.
So I don't think I could put in the time anymore to be a teacher, because it's not just ends at 3:00. It's all afternoon. It's on weekends, and you're constantly thinking, and you're constantly being judged by your administrators and your parents. And, and it's a lot of weight on a person's shoulders. So being a mom, a sole parent, it's I couldn't do it now. I couldn't, as much as I loved it and I miss it. I just couldn't do it yet.
Yeah.
So at this point, we talked about your, where you were born, you love your community, went away to school, didn't really have a rebellious streak in you, but you tried things, which is a good thing. I mean, you lived in different areas, so you at least tasted what it felt like to be independent. So when you came back and you got your bachelor's degree and you decided to get your master's degree, were you at this point in your marriage? I'm trying to figure out the timeline there.
So I started that first year teaching, walked back into my high school, new teacher orientation, and NWalks, my future husband. And we spent a few years dating, he was almost 30, I was 27, 28, and we finally started getting serious. I got married at 29, and the next 5 years we just tried to start a family, and that was not happening. So we had a great first 5 years. We built a little house, and we partied and karaoke'd and went traveling and made the best of it. But that was the first time in my life where I wanted something and I couldn't get it. Like, I was trying really hard. We had done all these, treatments and doctors, and it just wasn't happening. We knew the causes, and we decided, you know what, we're gonna take a risk financially, and we're gonna try IVF. And we went through that, which I hadn't known anybody that didn't work for.
Right.
Everybody knew that had IVF were getting babies, and sometimes they would get 2 babies.
Yeah, at the same time.
So I was like, let's go. And so we ended up, my husband was a teacher also. At the time, we worked together for about 2 years, and then he ended up going to the next county it was paying a lot more money, and he was from that area. So he moved down. So we were both teachers, and, living off a teacher's salary. We ended up putting our house on a second mortgage to pay for the treatments. And long story short, it didn't work. And it was devastating. And that was my first taste of a little bit of depression.
Okay.
I was working at my old high school, and it seemed like everybody around me was, and these are the things that women feel when they can't have babies. Everybody else is having a baby. Oh, I can't. Yeah. So I ended up just saying, I think I need a change. I think I need to get up. I need to, I booked some trips. I went and visited friends in New York City, and I went to visit my niece and nephews in Indiana, and things I had never done before. We didn't fly growing up because we didn't have a lot of money. So I planned all these little things to get myself up and out. And then I made the decision to switch schools, which was a big deal for me because that was my home school, and I had Gonzas there. But it was something that I needed to change. So
let me ask you something, because this is very interesting. You're experiencing setbacks. And you feel the frustration, but you decided to do something to get your mind off of it. What was that? What went through you that pushed you to say, you know what, this is not working right now, I need a break?
Yeah.
Like, what pushed you to that point? Because that's something that a lot of people can do,
rather than falling into depression.
Rather than falling into depression. I know that you said that you were falling into that, but you said, you know what, I can't be here. What was happening inside you that forced you to say, I need to do something to get myself out of this funk?
It's funny because I'm going through it again with this stage of my life, and the grief, with the depression, and the sadness, and it all comes down to one word, which is gratitude.
Okay.
And I heard somebody say, gratitude is my compass. Like, you have to, and one morning, and I remember laying in my bed, and I had been reeling from this loss, and this loss of a dream that, Terri, this might not happen. Like, you might not be a mom ever. And I really had to kind of come to terms with that. And I remember waking up one morning and just being like, you know what? You have this bed that is so comfortable, and this house is brand new. Like, it's 5 years old, and you have two legs that work, and you need to get up. And every step I took, in my head, it was just, and you have a toothbrush. And it was so silly as this sounds, like, there are people in the world that can't brush their teeth and have running water. And it was all of that I just kept going, and look at this, and look at this, and look at this. And just to fast forward to where I am now with the loss of my husband, I'm an educator. I've lived in this community my whole life. My husband was 22 years at Jupiter High School, grew up in Jupiter, huge sense of community for him. When he passed away, there was nothing but loving arms around us. And so I'm constantly circling back to the gratitude. Like, look at what we have. We can, there's many people that, when their spouse dies, they have to sell their house. They have to move away. They have to move back with their parent. And I fortunately don't have to do that. And so it's that.
What do you attribute that? Because that's something that is experienced, that the gratitude. And is that because of your upbringing, because of your parents, because of that sense of community? What do you attribute that essence of going always back when you're at those dark places to be thankful and being?
That's a really good question. I don't know. Like I said, we didn't have much growing up, but we made the best of it. I remember going to the fair and being so excited, the fair, and not realizing now my parents had to save up a lot of money to take 4 kids to the county fair.
Yeah.
County fair is expensive.
Yeah, it is.
And so but I don't really know, Omar. I really don't know what caused me to feel like this. But I always, even now, I joined this Facebook page of young widows with children, or young widowers with children. And I thought, I feel like I need a support group, but I'm not really ready to go meet people. Yeah. And I don't want to be like me and a bunch of like really old people. So I thought, let me just try this little Facebook, and what it has done is just made me go, okay, like, I've been through 9 months of this, and I'm here, and I'm grateful to survive this first 9 months. And I'm grateful that I'm not pregnant with without a spouse or a partner, and all these things. Every time I look at it, it's just this little reminder of, look at what you do have. I don't have a lot of money. I don't have everything, but I have so much.
Yeah.
So that makes everything.
Absolutely.
It's really hard for people to, I think sometimes what happens, and I'm not going to make this about me, but I think sometimes we take all of our situations, like all the stuff that's going on in your life, and it just compounds, and then it bottlenecks, and you feel so beat up that it's hard to sort of crawl out of the rabbit hole, right? Yeah. But you had that wherewithal to say, I need to, because in essence, you experienced a loss,
right?
Even when you were trying to conceive, because that's like, you're going through the stages of loss in that too.
And that uncertainty.
And not knowing, right? And so having the fortitude and the strength to say, I can't do this, and be grateful for a toothbrush. I mean, that's a lot. It's hard for people to do that. And so I think that says a lot about your character and the person that you are. So it's obvious that you had, and that's not that other people don't, but it's obvious you had a good, family structure.
Right.
And I think that sort of helps with that.
Yeah. So. And there's always that sense of, there's always a place to go if I don't have any place to go.
Yeah.
I have people. Yeah. I have family. I have, I have help.
Yeah.
I don't often use it because it's something that it's my pride. I can do it myself. But I have a sense of, family and community. And for my job, it's sad because this group of this generation, there's so many broken homes. There's so many parents just trying to survive that. Yeah. I think the sole problem is that our kids don't have that sense of, okay, if the worst thing happens, then I'll be okay.
Right.
Yeah. Now, do you see that as one of the primarily, I know that you deal with typically the bottom 25% of students who are struggling, who can't adjust. When you look at that demographic and the issues that they're confronting, is this one of the top issues besides learning impairments and things like that?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And you have to think, the loss of the family structure and the loss of just that security, it affects everything in a young person. And when you start talking about kids, and you and I are the same with this, if you give me the name of a kid and you give me the basics, he's failing 3 classes and he's not coming to school, and then you give me a little more, then I'm caught. And then I'm like, tell me more. Let's get the files. What's going on at home? Let's call mama, and then you see the big picture of, what's really happening. And then it's really hard with this age group that we work with the middle schools, because like I said, having 2 little young women that are going through this stage right now, and on top of losing their dad and all the grief that they're all going through, like, it's not easy to get these kids to talk, and it's not easy for them to understand what's happening in their own world. So it's overwhelming sometimes,
imagine
working at 5 schools and really seeing that there are kids at every school, even the more affluent schools have kids that are really struggling.
Yes.
So
now, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
Okay.
You go now.
You go. I'm the host. You go.
Oh, that's right. I just you know how my mind works. I'm always.
No, I know.
Yeah, but go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say that. So we talked about, the different stages of your life, and obviously, I'm sure we could talk to you for hours. I feel like that with everybody that I've met so far, because he knows most of the people.
Everybody has a story.
Yes. And I know there's so much more to it, and it's sad that we can't record for 8 hours, but and we do have to come to an end on the first part of your interview. But so right now you've experienced loss. You did have children, of course, now we know that, and so you went through that process, which made you a person that's filled with more gratitude, right?
For sure.
From what you're saying. And then you've experienced the loss of your husband at a young age, because you're young. And so where are you, like, presently? Like, what's Terri today?
Terri is so confused. I am truly floating, just floating. I'm functioning. For the most part, I am in a good mindset. I did this time off, this month that I've had off was a little more than I expected it would be. It was a little harder than I thought.
Oh, really?
Because I truly had time to kind of go, oh crap, what is going on?
Yeah.
I took some time when Troy died. Troy died on Halloween of all days. And I was able, through my community, through the people I work with and their generosity, they donated time for me to be able to stay home all through the holidays. And so I didn't have to go back to work until January. So I had a lot of good quiet time then to be able to just, get through that. But it's been craziness since then. I have 2 girls in travel sports and, a full-time job, and it's just a lot. And so the grief, I've just been kind of stepping aside, and you can't do that with grief. You really have to just let it in and process it and take its time. So July was hard for me. July was a time where there were times where I knew I had to get up, but I didn't want to. And I'm just coming out of that. Like, okay, it's time to get up and shave your legs. And you need to go get your roots done. And, get it together, girl. So, so right now I am floundering a little. I definitely am trying to figure out this new person. I see a counselor every 2 weeks who is amazing. And the last thing she said to me a couple weeks ago was that Terry's not coming back. Like, there is a new version of you, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So now I'm just trying to find out who she is while juggling the commitments that I have to my girls, to be a good mom, to be present, to help them through this. Yeah. There is not a lot of time for me. There's not a lot of time for my physical health and mental health, but it's a juggle. But I know I'll get there eventually. Yeah. So right this moment, I am just kind of in still survival mode a little. Right. But progressing,
right.
Kind of progressing.
Sounds like you're entering into that stage of evolving into the new, you said new Terri.
Yes.
So.
And one of the things that's interesting about this is that this, to me, as a soul's quest and the way that I look at stuff, it's that transitioning from adulthood to maturity. Now that you have experienced all these different things and these different scenarios, that is that transition.
Yeah.
And that transition is, like you said, it's confusing. It's strange. You're questioning things. You're rebelling, because that is the natural impulse that we go through when we're maturing. Is if you look back, by just listening and recapping what you said, you mentioned, you had your family life, and those transitions were easier because you had that foundation.
Yeah. Now
it's almost as if, although that foundation is still there, you're evolving more as an individual. Although that's still there, it's that transition is all about you.
Right.
So how does it make you feel that at least now you're like recognizing, oh, this is a real transition, and I have help and I have support, but it still doesn't feel good.
Right. Well, in this stage too, you're doing a lot of reflecting.
Yes.
You're looking at the reasons why things happen. I look at the fact that we spent our first 5 years, like at the time it was like, why isn't it, what, now I understand, I wouldn't have 5 years with Troy on the back end of our lives. So those 5 years that we had together were freaking so much fun.
Yeah.
And we were best friends. Like, we had a great marriage because we had such a great time. And the fact that we had trouble conceiving, but ended up with 2 amazing girls anyway, makes me like, God knew, I better really want these kids because I'm going to be raising them my whole life without him, So it's a lot of reflection of just this past 47 years before this event and I do believe that this was all supposed to happen. I do believe that it wasn't just a freak thing that happened. So that's part of that whole process.
Do you ask yourself, you believe that it's supposed to happen, but do you ask yourself why is this supposed to happen? Do you ever ask? And what do you come up with?
Why did is this was this because of this was the path of my life? Like the intertwining of his path and my path and my children's path. Like I just it's kind of like mind blowing to think. Well, we were very different. Troy and I. Troy was an athlete. He was witty and funny, but he was quiet and he was introverted. And I'm not athletic at all.
You're the entertainer.
And we were very different. which I think we kind of battled with when we were dating. Like, what is this right? But there was this draw to each other for some reason. So I understand we were supposed to be together, but yeah, there's definitely a, how is this all going to pan out?
Yeah.
Also for my girls, the death of their dad at 10 and 12, what will that mean for them in their life? And I know that, eventually, this happened because this led them to this, but I still don't like that. I still don't, the sacrifice of his death, you had to sacrifice him for that.
That.
So it's just it's a constant. People ask me, what's the benefit of counseling? And I say it's because there's so much going on in here. There's so much to think about and so much process and so many, it just becomes so loud, so
that noise is distracting.
Yeah. And there's just so many things when someone dies in your life close to you to really understand.
But those questions are, do you feel that, and I think that you alluded to that that you're in the brink of discovering more things, but those questions still persist.
Yeah.
And what gives you the courage to answer those questions? Because some people will just revert to say, I don't want to deal with this. I'm just going to suppress it. What gives you the courage to keep wanting to know and wanting to make sense of it all?
There's no other choice.
Okay.
There really isn't. I mean, I know, I guess I could say that I worry more about my kids.
Okay.
Because of the job that I do and the kids that I see, things like this have happened to and what could happen. Like I'm uber aware of the mental health aspect. And so I know I have to keep it together and I've got to teach them what this is and what this is happening. So I think it's just more of this innate feeling to make sure my kids don't end up screwed up because I can't handle my stuff.
Okay.
And also how an adult, how I have to react to this. I have to be mentally healthy. I have to be physically healthy. I have to keep going. I have to keep going. And even, I had this conversation with a friend the other day in front of the girls, and she was telling me I'm such a worrier. And I said, I used to be like that, but I don't really worry anymore. I don't worry about things anymore because I know that like all the things that have happened, like I'm still here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still here and I still have to keep going. So, and to me, like the worst thing that could have happened to me. One of the worst. You just have to.
So before we move on, I know the producer's looking at me like,
Sadly. And it's really, because I feel like we could talk to people for hours, but we do have to come to an end.
But
so you can have one more question.
One more question. May I please?
Yes, you can.
One more question. And I think that I kind of like lost it because I lost my train of thought.
Oh, no.
No, but I did it. I did it. So
we both are very much squirrely.
yes, we're very squirrely. Our conversations go in very different directions all the time. So and again, I've seen you work professionally, and I've seen in this particular industry, you could easily become jaded, and we've seen that, and we've seen in the interactions that some people may have with kids, and other adults. Yeah, you choose not to. We did the Myers-Briggs assessment, and you are the entertainer, right? So it's like
that's where that came from.
That's where that came from. Yeah. So
okay,
it's one of the things that we did, and we try to do with all the kids. But you choose not to be bitter or become disenchanted with the process, and it's evident in the way that you interact with people because I've seen it firsthand. Why did you choose that instead of becoming bitter? I know it's a hard question.
I know the answer though, because it's two-part. It's one part, I work with amazing guidance counselors and administrators that truly care about kids, that they don't give up, and they're constantly advocating for their kids. And then the second is the kid, is this child. And they're growing and they've had these things that happen, or they're struggling in this way and they have nobody to help with it. The parents don't know how to help. And so you just have this like, and as a mom, I don't know whether it's as a mom or just as like somebody that's like interested in just like I'm very emotional. I like to key in on people's emotions and I become like, I want to help, I just want that help. And when you work with people that are constantly, we got to do something. We got to do something. This is a story. And then you have this poor child, and it's just like, oh yeah, let's do this. We can do this. Let's fix this. I'm definitely a fixer. I want to fix. I want to problem solve. I want to, you know. So I think that's just something that you surround yourself with people. Now, like I said, I'm going through a change in my home house where I have to, my 13-year-old, my 11-year-old, they're going through that stage where they're, you know, not only they're angry, they're grieving, but they're also they're just rude sometimes because they're that age. And it's definitely, I see how this affects me.
Yes.
It makes me, it just brings me down. So that is something I'm working on myself, because when other people are charged around me, I'm charged. But when I'm around negative people, I'm like, bye, like I'm done. Yeah. And you can't do that when it's your kid.
Yeah.
So I'm having a really hard time right now with that.
Temporarily we can, but no.
This is the stage.
Well, that it really is. They're young, and they're going through a lot too.
Yes.
I mean, you know, and you've said that already. So, but this sets up the stage for part 2 of your interview, and so we're gonna end here. Hopefully you enjoyed this interview. If you did, part 1 of this interview, make sure you catch part 2 of this interview. But if you liked it, make sure that you give us a thumbs up and subscribe. That's it. See you later. See you next time. Bye. No, we'll see you next time.